Singapore, a city that feels like the future, yet carries the weight of centuries in its soil. From the air, it gleams.
Singapore, a city that feels like the future, yet carries the weight of centuries in its soil. From the air, it gleams, a mosaic of glass towers, green parks, and winding waterways. But beneath this modern skyline lies a story that began long before the first skyscraper rose, long before the first shipping container docked at its port. This is a place where the past and present live side by side. In the shadow of futuristic architecture, you can still find temples scented with incense, colonial-era shophouses painted in pastel hues, and hawker stalls serving recipes passed down for generations. How did this tiny island, smaller than many cities, transform into one of the most influential nations on Earth? The answer lies in a journey that spans centuries, from ancient myths and maritime empires through colonial ambition and wartime struggle to independence and astonishing economic growth. Today, we'll travel through that entire history, walking the same shores as ancient traders, standing in the same streets where battles were fought, and watching a nation reinvent itself time and again. This is the story of Singapore.
Centuries before the name Singapore was ever spoken, this island was known as Temasek, Sea Town. It was a small but vital outpost in the vast maritime network of Southeast Asia. Imagine the 13th century Straits of Malacca, a watery superhighway where ships from China, India, Arabia, and the Malay archipelago passed daily. The air was thick with the scent of spices and salt, the creak of wooden hulls, and the calls of sailors in dozens of languages. Temasek was not yet a great city, but it was a place of opportunity, a safe harbor for traders to rest, repair their ships, and exchange goods. Its mangrove-lined shores and sheltered waters made it a natural stopover. Here, cultures met, deals were struck, and stories were exchanged over cups of steaming tea. Though small, Temasek's location was its greatest asset, a jewel waiting to be discovered by those with the vision to see its potential.
One of Singapore's most enduring tales begins with a storm. A prince from Palembang, Sang Nila Utama, is sailing across the sea when fierce winds drive his ship toward an unfamiliar island. As the storm clears, he steps ashore and sees a creature unlike any he has encountered, a lion, powerful and majestic. Taking it as a sign of strength and courage, he names the place Singapura, the Lion City. Historians debate whether lions ever roamed this island, but the story has endured for centuries, shaping the city's identity. Today, the merlion, half lion, half fish, stands as a symbol of Singapore's blend of myth and maritime heritage. Whether fact or legend, the tale captures something essential about Singapore, the belief that even the smallest place can hold great power if it has the courage to claim it.
By the 15th century, Singapore had become part of the Malacca Sultanate, a thriving Islamic trading empire that dominated the region. The island's strategic location at the mouth of the Malacca Strait made it a coveted prize. Ships laden with silk, porcelain, spices, and precious metals passed through its waters. Malay, Chinese, Arab, and Indian merchants mingled in the markets, their goods and ideas flowing as freely as the tides. But power attracts rivals. The Portuguese, seeking to control the spice trade, captured Malacca in 1511, and Singapore's fortunes shifted. Over the next centuries, the island would be fought over by the Portuguese, Dutch, and the Johor Sultanate. By the 18th century, Singapore was little more than a quiet fishing village, its glory days seemingly behind it. Yet its location remained as valuable as ever, waiting for the right moment to rise again.
That moment came in 1819, when Sir Stamford Raffles of the British East India Company arrived on Singapore's shores. Raffles saw what others had overlooked, a deep, sheltered harbor at the crossroads of Asia's busiest trade routes. Negotiating with local Malay rulers, he secured the right to establish a British trading post. Almost overnight, Singapore transformed. Ships from China, India, and Europe began to arrive in droves, drawn by the promise of a free port with no taxes on trade. The air filled with the clang of hammers gilding warehouses, the shouts of dock workers unloading cargo, and the chatter of merchants striking deals. In just a few years, Singapore went from a sleepy outpost to one of the busiest ports in the region. Raffles' vision had set the island on a new course, one that would change its destiny forever.
As trade boomed, people from across Asia poured into Singapore. Chinese immigrants arrived to work in shops and on the docks. Indian traders brought textiles and spices. Malays from nearby islands came to fish and farm. The city became a true melting pot, a place where dozens of languages could be heard in a single marketplace. Temples, mosques, and churches rose side by side. Festivals from different cultures lit up the streets with color and music. Yet beneath the vibrancy, colonial rule created deep social divides. The British controlled the government and the wealth, while most immigrants lived in crowded shophouses and worked long hours for low pay. Still, the mix of cultures gave Singapore a unique identity, one that would become one of its greatest strengths in the years to come.
By the early 20th century, Singapore was known as the Gibraltar of the East, a fortress the British believed was impregnable. But in February 1942, that illusion shattered. Japanese forces swept down the Malay Peninsula, outflanking the island's defenses. In just 1 week, Singapore fell, the largest surrender in British military history. Life under Japanese occupation was harsh. Food was scarce, prices soared, and fear was constant. Thousands were imprisoned or executed. The people of Singapore learned a hard truth. The colonial power they had relied on could not protect them. The war left deep scars, but it also planted the seeds of a new idea, that Singapore's future should be in its own hands.
After the war, Singapore began to rebuild. The streets buzzed with political debate as new parties formed and leaders emerged. Among them was a young lawyer named Lee Kuan Yew, whose vision for Singapore would shape its destiny. In 1959, Singapore achieved self-government under the People's Action Party. Crowds filled the streets, waving the new state flag, their faces alight with hope. But challenges loomed. Unemployment was high, housing was inadequate, and the island still depended heavily on trade. The road ahead would be anything but easy.
In 1963, Singapore joined the Federation of Malaysia, hoping that unity would bring economic growth and security. But tensions quickly arose over political differences, economic policies, and racial issues. Just 2 years later, on August 9, 1965, Singapore was expelled from Malaysia. In a televised address, Lee Kuan Yew fought back tears as he announced the birth of an independent nation. Singapore was now on its own, a small island with no natural resources, surrounded by uncertainty. But it also had something powerful, the determination to survive. The years that followed were a whirlwind of change. The government launched massive public housing projects, replacing slums with modern apartments. Schools were built, industries developed, and foreign investors courted. In just 2 decades, Singapore transformed from a struggling port into a manufacturing hub, and then into a center for finance and technology. The skyline rose higher each year, a testament to the nation's ambition. But the real foundation of Singapore's success was its people, disciplined, hard-working, and united in their belief that they could build something extraordinary.
By the 1990s, Singapore had become one of the 4 Asian tigers, a symbol of rapid economic growth and efficiency. Changi Airport, consistently ranked among the best in the world, welcomed millions of travelers each year. The Port of Singapore bustled day and night, its cranes moving like clockwork as containers from every corner of the globe were loaded and unloaded. The skyline was a testament to ambition. Sleek towers of steel and glass reflected the tropical sun, while green spaces and waterfront promenades softened the city's edges. Orchard Road glittered with luxury boutiques, while hawker centers served steaming bowls of laksa and plates of chicken rice to office workers and tourists alike. Singapore had positioned itself as a hub for finance, technology, and trade, a place where East meets West, and where the world comes to do business.
The 21st century brought new challenges. Globalization meant greater competition. The 2008 financial crisis tested the resilience of Singapore's economy. Climate change threatened its low-lying shores, and the nation began investing heavily in sustainability, from desalination plants to vertical gardens. Socially, Singapore grappled with questions of identity, diversity, and the balance between tradition and modernity. Immigration brought fresh talent, but also sparked debates about culture and belonging. Yet, through it all, the city-state's guiding principles, pragmatism, long-term planning, and unity continued to steer it forward.
One of Singapore's most remarkable transformations was its reinvention as a city in a garden. Towering skyscrapers were draped in greenery. Parks and nature reserves flourished. The iconic gardens by the bay rose from reclaimed land, its super trees glowing at night like something from a dream. This was not just beautification, it was survival. Green spaces cooled the city, improved air quality, and made urban life more livable. Singapore proved that even the densest metropolis could live in harmony with nature. Singapore's story is not just about buildings, policies, or trade routes. It is about its people, the generations who endured hardship, rebuilt after war, and dared to dream bigger than their circumstances. From the dock workers of the 19th century to the engineers of the digital age, every Singaporean has been part of the nation's journey. Their resilience, discipline, and belief in the collective good have been the true engines of progress.
Today, Singapore stands at a crossroads once again. The challenges of the future, from technological disruption to environmental change, are as daunting as any in its past. But history has shown that this island thrives under pressure. The same spirit that turned a fishing village into a global powerhouse still beats in the heart of the Lion City. And as the sun sets over Marina Bay, casting golden light on the waters, one thing is certain: Singapore's story is far from over. It is still being written in every innovation, every policy, every dream of its people. And the world will be watching.